Sports is about being the best you can be. It's about success. It's about adversity. It's about taking the hits and getting back up. Every time. But more than that, sports is about challenging yourself and other people.
It couldn't be closer.
Yes, baby.
It's about standing shoulder to shoulder. We're here to change the playbook. We're here to change the way you think about racing.
Hello and welcome to the Lake Como GP presented by Villa d'Este for round 5 of the UIM E1 World Championship. This glorious Italian natural wonder will be the battleground for E1's 9 teams, which are trying to become champions of the water as we prepare for the next chapter of this all-electric powerboat series. So Saunders, let's take a look at this incredible course against this stunning backdrop.
A stunning backdrop, and of course that to match a 1.26 kilometer 7-turn racing lap. Huge difference because this is our first lake running. I mean, there's much less of a current, more predictable water, and less to deal with when it comes to the waves and current. We've got a tighter course as well, fewer longer straights, could make for more consistent racing, and with that the potential of getting each other's way and a bigger challenge. But today it's all about qualifying pace and combined average time, Greg.
That it is, and of course there is a point on the line as well, and those points can be incredibly important as we are in the final rounds of our championship chase. Coming in here, it is Team Brady that have themselves with a nice-sized lead in the championship, but it is by no means insurmountable here. And you can see it's 13 over Team Miami. Westbrook, what a remarkable story they have been. We'll talk more about that. Only 10 behind in third. And then you can see in fourth, Team Drogba, Team Rafa, Team Brazil, Team Blue Rising, Aoki Racing, and Team Checo complete the field of 9 at this point. And we are getting ready for qualifying, and let's get down to the milling area where our boats are getting ready to go. And remember, these are very special boats at that. They are called race birds. Incredibly impressive machines, all electric. And there is the race bird piloted by our points leaders. And starting off, it is going to be in that machine one of the most experienced of the racers. That is Sam Coleman here. So we're looking forward to it here. But they have a lot to challenge. And you may think this is a nice, smooth track and course, no problems. Not so much. Team Miami in practice had a major moment, and we want to show you that because it is just one of the challenges that have to happen here. Tell us what happened here, Saunders.
Yeah, so we're looking at Anna now, and a big hit. Essentially, it's just trying to get the trim in the perfect place going into the corner to slow the race bird down, but also then be able to exit the corner well. And I think it's just perhaps come in a little bit too late, where that left-hand side of the foil has just caught a lot of water lag, and it's essentially just been stopped straight. And you can see how harshly it pulls down, lifts up the other side of the boat. Almost, you know, we're kind of halfway towards a flip there.
Yes, we are.
But seemingly in the cockpit, there's Anna Glennon completely unfazed.
Yeah, just turned in, kept it going through the corner, and you know, there's a lot of energy release when it digs like that, isn't it? And as I said, if you look at the graphic there, qualification one, Group 1, and there is that Team Miami race bird, a point on the line, and there is one of the most experienced drivers as well. This first heat of qualifying, from a powerboat pilot standpoint, pretty chock full of talent here. That's Eric Stark, who has proven to be, as we would expect, one of the absolute quickest drivers out there.
Absolutely. I mean, they're talking about talent on the water in this grid is just unbelievable. The credentials, we're talking multiple World Powerboat Championship winners, people from all different disciplines of motorsport, not just powerboat racing, And yeah, it's coming through in evidence of how the performance has been so far this season.
And take a look at this view, folks. This is Lake Como, and looking up north toward the northern end of the lake, and you can see the hills become mountains in fairly quick order, and just to the left out of view from this angle are the Alps themselves. This is an incredible location here, and Villa d'Este is an amazing, amazing property. You've been there, you've witnessed it firsthand. I've read up on it, and wow, is it incredible. As we have qualifying getting underway, and right from the off here comes Sergio Perez race team, or as it's called, Team Checo.
So we're really going to be looking out of not just who can have the quickest lap here, because as we know, in qualifying in E1, it's all about that combined average lap time from both pilots in each team. But what's especially crucial about this weekend, Greg, is that 1 point goes a long way towards who might win this championship.
Well, and you think about it, you know, with the lead that Brady has coming in, if they have a great day again, that 1 point could prevent them from winning it all here and going to the next round. So yeah, absolutely massive. And getting out here. Just to remind everybody, if this is your first time watching, the way qualifying works, we have one group of qualifying session. There are two groups. The first group has 5 of these race birds. The second will have 4. Then there's a pause because we have to do 2 things: recharge the race birds and switch out the pilots. There are 2 pilots per team, 1 male, 1 female, and they each have to do a turn. When everything's done, we add the times, divide by 2, and the lowest, if you will, of the combined average times, that is your top qualifier, earns that point. And of course, in this type of of sports in general, the lower the qualifying time, the faster the lap. So that's what you need to remember here.
And let's see who can get the quickest time of this session. You can see on the left here the live standings of the lap time currently as it stands. Team Miami just going to the top there with Eric Stark in place. Now what I'm looking at now is the massive difference between the water conditions to what we saw last time out in Monaco, when they had an ocean current to deal with, they had wake from big passing boats, all sorts of challenges to deal with, where this time around they have much flatter conditions, which, as I mentioned earlier, is just a lot more easy to understand, a lot more easy to predict what the water's going to do, and essentially it means you have to do much less work on the trim, find a sweet spot. And talking of sweet spots, looking at the practice times, Greg, there were a couple of teams that found it more than the others.
Well, right from the off, at the end of the first round of practice, Team Brady was up by almost 3 seconds. By the time the final practice ended, Team Miami had trimmed it down to under 2, but it was just under 2. Clearly, Brady has come out swinging for the faces here, you know, absolutely going after it. We got to report that, Drogba is stopped out on the circuit. And now you are allowed, it's 3 laps, and you do not have to do them consecutively. You can't go back to the launch zone in the middle. Once you go, you can do a lap and then go back to the building area, then do another one. That's okay. But this looks, by the look on Oban Duncan's face, and this is the teen phenom, that looks a little bit more concerned than just taking a bit of a pause. Here's Brady, and as we talked about, the pilot on board here, Sam Coleman, and he is so experienced and has shown some tremendous speed, as well as you would imagine, good judgment out here. What are you seeing as you take a look at the standings now? They're just starting their run. Miami, that's a good lap. What are you seeing here from this race bird for Brady?
I'm just looking at the trim graphic on the right-hand side now, and it's very minimal movement. We're looking at about 0.4, 0.5 difference, meaning there's not that much work having to go into the trim. But we were seeing, you know, 1 point difference last in the race in Monaco. So that's one thing to look out for. The other thing is also the choice of racing line, because racing line's much more important here, because we haven't got as many long straights like we had in the previous 2 races. So it's going to be more about finding that perfect entry and exit point into each corner, and then using the acceleration of the race birds to be in a good position for the next one.
And by your judgment, would you think on this track that instead of doing those tight corners and accelerating out, it's such an open course to just roll essentially more speed, use wider lines to not dip that inside foil into the water?
Absolutely, and yeah, we're looking at that now, and we'll see that going around this course now.
What a lap!
What they're trying to do, but you know that he's essentially replicated what they did in practice already. And interestingly enough, their best time in practice was on their first lap as well.
As we're, okay, Drogba is back up and at it here. That's great to see for Oban Duncan. You know, the fastest time in practice was an 18.0. We saw Miami with an 18.2, and I thought, all right, they're there. Boom, and then Coleman comes out in a mid-17 at a 1:17.5. Like I said, they have come out swinging for the fences for this championship.
Oh, big move there. Exactly, almost exactly the same place as what we saw Anna Glennon do in practice. You know, that corner seems to be a little bit tricky for some of these pilots.
Well, you know, what's got me interested in that here is, you know, that's that last turn, essentially, as you come out onto the front straight. And I'm not sure what's causing that, because to me, the conditions actually look a little bit calmer than we saw in practice. There's still some ripple here, but it's nothing like we've had before. But it's just the energy here, I think.
So just going to look at where that motor sits. So that's just, I think that's just unlucky. That's not so much of what we saw with Anna Glennon with a trim difference and trying to slow the race bird down. That, I think that feels just almost like a bad catch. But equally, you have to be able to almost predict those. And you are, like I mentioned earlier, in a much better position to predict that kind of thing on flatter waters like this.
And would there be something, because that turn is the one that is, look at the focus for Oban there, that turn is the one that is closest to the shoreline in a sense. And I don't know, whether there's a little bit of flow back from the shoreline that could be catching. I mean, look at it, hooking it right there. And look at this. That was a fabulous lap as they are trimming it down just a little bit, coming after it here. It's still that 1:17.5, but Miami is trying to do something with it. Here comes Team Checo. There's Team Miami, actually, that's coming by and going to keep a track on their fast laps at this point. And right now, they're still off by about 7/10. Third right now is Drogba at a 1:20, but that's Oban Duncan now just trying to make up some time after that early issue. Lisa Battaglia for Team Blue Rising, and she has sort of a double challenge here. Everybody else obviously has the normal racing challenges. She has a brand new teammate, although it's one she's pretty familiar with.
Yeah, exactly. I think the last person you kind of want to be going up against as a teammate is your boss.
Exactly.
But this is the case with John Peters coming in and taking the place for Phelan Kavanagh. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with those guys. But I'm just looking at these live standings because you've got Team Brady, Team Miami, an exact replication of what we have in the championship standings on a weekend where it could be all decided.
And here you see Team Checo, and driving for Team Checo, her second race is Jeva Miller-Hagen, who came in and replaced Vicky Piria, who's away again for F1. And they're off the mark just a little bit and need to find some pace. Clearly, these top two, I mean, this is what we saw in practice. The top two were relatively close. Then it was a couple of seconds back to the rest of the field at best. What could they have done and figured out here that gives them such an advantage? I mean, you can't modify these race birds. There's very strict things that you were minimally allowed to do, a little sanding on the foil, and that's about it. But they figured something out.
Yeah, like you say, very little to customize, but the one choice they do have as a pilot in the cockpit is how they use the trim, how high the boat sits above the water, how far the nose sticks out of the water in order to kind of switch from what a lot of the pilots say, from kind of boating to flying. By being, taking all the surface friction away. The other thing they can do, though, is the choice of prop. And the choice of prop is 3 different sizes they have to say at least the minimum of an hour before each session. It's 1 per day that they use. And essentially, a smaller size prop is going to give you faster acceleration but a slower top speed. And a bigger size prop is going to give you a slower acceleration but a faster top speed. On a circuit like this, my gut instinct would say they would go for quicker acceleration to get in and out of those corners.
Absolutely. I mean, that would make some sense here. And we're watching, again, Oban Duncan. We're on board with her now for this Team Drogba boat. They've been very quick quite frequently here, but they just, in this run, they have not yet been able to match the speed of Brady and Miami, even though they were second qualifiers in Monaco at the last round. Like I said, they've got serious pace. We just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, they became unlucky, I would say, at points in Monaco to not leave with a better result. But I've just been looking at that graphic beforehand, is that they're running a much higher trim than what we've seen in other pilots so far. Almost like 0.5 higher than what the likes of Sam Coleman was doing for Team Brady. So is that part of their instability that's costing them to not have a better time? 3 seconds off the pace of Miami in second, and then even more so when it comes to Brady and P1.
Well, it looks to me, I mean, Oben is really struggling to keep it up on the foil consistently. There's a lot of porpoising going on, and every time that big hull drops into the water, that just creates massive drag, and so that's one of the issues here. Meanwhile, going back to Team Miami, who are only 7/10 right now off of Team Brady in terms of the qualifying efforts here, doing everything they possibly can. Eric Stark, but he's got to find a big chunk of time.
7/10 of a second, and 7 points off in the championship. The 7 being the magic number currently. We'll see how that, and it could be 6 points by the end of this qualifying session. It could be that will mix things up a lot, because a reminder how it works: you've got 2 pilots in each boat, and it's the average lap time combined that gives them the overall time for the qualifying session, and ultimately what decides who gets that essential point by winning qualifying, and also where they start tomorrow.
And that's one of the great things about this championship with the 2 pilots, and again, 1 male, 1 female, and neither of them cannot do the job. In qualifying, it's going to cost you. In semifinals, which is how you advance to the final, if one has a really bad race, it's really tough to overcome that. We have seen it as we have a look there at Anna Glennon. We have seen that, though. I remember at I think it was Puerto Banús, Oben Duncan, her teammate had a rough qualifying run. She came out and absolutely scorched that course and did just enough to put them up into the top 2 in qualifying. So you can get it done, but you're really racing for 2 things here right now in qualifying: that point, and to just make sure that you've got that boat ready, that race bird ready for the crucial semifinal rounds, which will be starting tomorrow. And there is a look at Anna. She was the one who had that big moment for Team Miami. And look at that. There's just something in that area, and I don't know what could be causing it. It's almost like there's something underwater that reaches up and grabs that inside foil, and just gets that to dip really huge.
I think your assessment is probably correct, Greg. I think it's the kind of the wash coming back off the shore that's catching them, because it seems like that would be a place to do it. The other thing to consider is that on that kind of section of the track, of the course, let's say from turns 2, 3, 4 to 6, you've got the most open bit where the rest of the lake is there, and any passing boat traffic is going to be creating a bit of a wake as well. It's not going to make that much difference, but it will make some difference. That combined with an extra bit of drift coming back off the shore could do enough to knock them off balance.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's an area where that shoreline's really close. So. But right now, Coleman continues to have things covered. He got that really quick lap early, but in looking at last laps, he's still running 1.5 seconds quicker, even on a slower lap. That last lap was an 18.4, but Eric Stark at a 19.9, and Oben Duncan at a 20.2. She's moved up into that 3rd spot in this run right now. Oben has, but this is really there, folks. You can see what we're talking about. The rest of the track is pretty open to the lake, but that last corner in particular is right up against the shoreline. And see here how Lisa Battaglia does. Boy, what a special event for her in Monaco, where she got to race at home. Nice job through there.
Looking pretty balanced, I was just saying, sitting quite nicely on the foil. It looked very controlled, very stable, where we saw the likes of Drogba all over the place into certain corners, but this looks pretty consistent. Will it be reflected in the time?
Well, her best lap thus far, 120.9, which is only 4/10 off Oben. So she's doing pretty well out there. It's a matter of how many laps are done. Eric Stark is done, and that's Lisa Battaglia's last lap for Team Blue Rising. You get 3 laps, and as I said, you can do 1 lap, and that means you got to cross start finish twice. But then and as we're seeing Oben Duncan continue on here, we have seen Lisa Battaglia for Team Blue Rising has completed her run, and we're going to see if we can chat with her here. Lisa, this is Greg in the TV booth. You completed your qualifying run. You put in a really nice lap, only 4/10 off of Oben. Nice job.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It looks like it's pretty challenging out there, even though it isn't anywhere near as rough as some of the other courses. How is it?
Difficult with the waves. The weather change. My first lap was faster, and after we faced many waves, and it was very difficult. But I am happy for the moment.
All right, Lisa. Well, we were watching. You looked really smooth out there. Thank you so much, and good luck. As she makes her way back into the launch zone, and looks like Coleman did 2 laps, not consecutively. I don't know if he is just going to say we're done here. And Oban Duncan as well for Team Drogba also has the opportunity for 1 more lap. I'm not sure it makes a lot of sense here. I think Sam is staying out there just in case somebody beats his time.
Yeah, because, you know, that we're talking about the combined average lap, you know, so doing each pilot needs to do the best they can do in their sessions in order to, you know, improve their chances of getting that point. And we've talked about that point being crucial when it comes to the top 2 in the standings, just 13 points between them. But there's only 10 points, or 11 I should say, between 3rd and 7th. So that 1 point could go an incredibly long way, especially when you factor in 10 points is the same as a 4th in a final.
Yep.
So having that qualifying point would then put you suddenly up into the potential chance of a podium at the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely critical, those points there. And you just saw a great look of Emma Kymäläinen, who is the teammate to Sam Coleman for Team Brady. And she is super active when she's not in the race bird. On the radio, you could see her really talking there. And obviously she has input. She was out in the practice sessions. So if she's noticing something, she's going to speak to the comms engineer up in race control, who can then get right on the radio down to Sam. There she is, and boy, talk about a fierce competitor. You know, she doesn't have anywhere close to the boating experience of a Sam Coleman, but she has proven to be darn near on his pace, and I think it's just, she's got an incredible feel there as well.
Yeah, they're clearly doing something right. You know, they've had 3 wins in 4 races. So there's a reason that they're the top of the championship. As we look at, I believe this is Katie Munnings we're thinking about getting swapping over in a second. Katie will be jumping in for the next session.
There's Eric, who has completed his runs, getting out with Anna.
Oh, correction, that was Yeva.
Okay.
Katie's in the next session. But yes.
There she is. And another extremely experienced powerboat racer, Yeva.
Yeah, talk about, you know, standing in previously in Monaco. There's a lot of credentials there to be confident in.
Yeah.
Both her and a few others that stood in as well. Interesting kind of difference in performance, but I think the conditions were really unpredictable in Monaco, and you could even do everything right and be cost by a rogue wave or a rogue passing ship, where in this there's a lot more to control, I would say, here in Lake Como.
Let's have a look and follow this here, because this is Oban Duncan. This is her final qualifying lap. Here you can see she's through turn 1, which is the right-hander, past that yellow smart mark, now into turn 2, and look at the focus, the concentration, the fight as she comes through turn 2. And now we'll be heading toward, and we count turn 1 there, it's that long arcing corner, and now she heads over into that 3rd turn. And this is another sort of double apex, if you will. And it's interesting to see, is she going to run a tight line or is she going to open it up a little bit? And she didn't pinch it in too much there.
Not too much. It's still fairly tight within the room that they have to work with, but maybe that's the point now where they can kind of take some of the turn off this next section and just try and go a bit straighter, a bit flatter. Trim is right up again, so a little bit more than what we saw in the likes of some of the others in this session, but we can't fault Oban because, you know, there's 10 years of experience of racing powerboats, and she was 9 years old. She's 19 now, she's got 10 years experience. So this is clearly an understanding between her, the team, and the racebird itself and what works. But will it work for this session? Will they get up there in the time? Can they improve on their time?
She needs to find a little over 2 seconds to move up into the 2nd qualifying spot. Let's see if she does it. She is about to complete her lap, and let's see what her time is. And a 120.5, so she didn't quite get there. It was her best lap, which will be encouraged.
I'm really happy, after our last qualifying in Monaco, that was not good. So, it's nice to see that we have the speed, like 0.7 is nothing, and we are up there now. It's Anna's turn to try to increase that and make the gap. So we see it. The start is not super important for tomorrow, but it's nice to see that we have the speed to be able to fight for the top spots as we should have.
You did have the speeds, and obviously very different driving on the lake as opposed to the sea. How do you adapt your tactics to the lake?
No, it was really nice actually to come back to some calm water, because we had 2 really rough races, and it's becoming a different thing to drive the boat, because okay, it's more easy, but then you need to drive it 100% without any mistakes. So in the end, it's getting more hard. But yeah, I like it. I like to be on the limit. It's what I'm basically doing in my other racing. So yeah, this fits me a lot.
In the standings, 13 points behind the leaders, Team Brady. Just how motivated are you going into this race weekend?
Yeah, of course, but they are really good, both of them. So yeah, it's gonna be tough. But we never give up, and we know we have the speed to win. So we will try to win here, and then we'll see what's happening.
Eric, thank you. Over to Anna now. She looks very focused behind you here in the zone. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, so the first session and first group of the first session is done. Team Checo with Eva Meleri-Hagen in the 5th spot right now. Lisa Gassane-Battaglia in the 4th spot, but just missing the top 3. Oban Duncan for Team Drogba in that 3rd spot. Eric Stark only 7/10 off of Team Brady here for Team Miami. And Sam Coleman, you heard what he was saying. You've got to really balance things here. And he said we try and take it to the absolute limit every time. Not sure you could find a better setting. This is just absolutely glorious there. And you see Villa d'Este just off to the left. That white structure, that is the actual villa, the hotel itself. But the building in the background is the spa. Right in front of it, the launch zone, and of course the Ocean Club. It is a glorious setting. Welcome back to Lake Como, everybody, as we continue this qualifying afternoon here in this absolutely incredible session. We have our first session of qualifying underway. Group 1 is already completed. Now we come out with our second group of competitors that will be making their way out onto the track. And of course, it is the combined average time. So the pilots that have already been out, the times they set will be added to the times that this group sets, and then it'll be divided by 2. We get the average time. But you know what? There's been a lot going on here, and 2 of our absolute A-list celebrity team owners who haven't been able to get to one of these events yet showed up here. If you're going to miss one, you don't want to miss Lake Como. So they showed up here, and I'll tell you what, Academy Award winner Will Smith and one of the greatest ever in tennis, Rafael Nadal, climbed on board and decided they were going to jump into this with both feet.
This is bring your boss to work day on a new level, isn't it? And I imagine the pilots watching on will now be very grateful that they now have first-hand experience of what actually it's like, how difficult it is, what it feels like. Potentially a little bit more leeway or sympathy when it comes to how they perform.
Exactly. They gave them each just a couple of easy laps, and then they had them just do a little bit of a drag race run and having some great fun. And folks, that water coming in, it's cooling those drivers down. It is cooking inside these cockpits.
Oh, just look at this. You've got Rafa Nadal drag racing against Will Smith. Incredible stuff, only in E1.
Dude,
and this is what they have to think
that's
about
fun.
it.
That's really fun. Have you done it before? If you haven't done it, yeah, that's the first time too. Yeah, it's really cool. Like when he catches up and like trying to keep it. Yeah, bang. Yeah.
For the time that you feel boom, say,
Ooh, okay. I don't want
I don't want to do that anymore. So again, yeah, that really gives them an understanding of what these pilots have to do. And they had the cockpit canopy open. It's 86 degrees here in Como right now. It feels like almost 90 degrees Fahrenheit. It is toasty hot, and that's what these drivers, even in this qualifying session, it is incredibly warm inside here. And of course, we are seeing that even though this water looks relatively calm as we look at this layout here, there's some things going on that are really challenging these pilots.
Yeah, potentially unexpectedly so. Because you think from our point of view, it looks like everything's much more stable. The water feels a bit more predictable. The fact that it's a lake and not, an ocean makes a huge difference. But yeah, we are still seeing it, even now with Team Brazil, some instability into some of those corners where they maybe haven't just got the trim in the perfect place, or they're catching a bit of a wave or a backdrift coming off the shore, something just kind of knocking them off balance. So it's not as easy as it looks, but yeah, still better, I would say, at least, than Puerto Banús and Monaco when it comes to dealing with waves.
Yeah, it's just a matter of figuring out, and that's that last turn, turn 7, that just really seems to be catching them here. By the way, we have an update from the first group of session 1 of qualifying. Team Blue Rising has actually been given a penalty in a 5-minute time because of an incorrect exit from the racetrack, and the officials are sticklers on that one because that's a real safety issue. You don't want to be in another Racebird's way that's going for serious speed here. Now you see in the background, Team Rafa is just sitting there. That's okay. You can complete a lap and then you go back to the milling area. And remember, a completed lap, you've got to go through start finish to start it and through start finish again. But then you have to do another half a lap and pull off into the milling area. So it's 3 laps you're allowed total. You don't have to do them consecutively.
Here we are on board with Timmy Hansen, coming off the back of a rallycross win actually last season. So he's got that winning mentality. Can he carry that in to this weekend in E1? Obviously a very different sport, but still there's something in there mentally that might, momentum might carry him into some good performance. But this is a team we have to talk about.
No, they've just
Team
been amazing.
Westbrook.
Yeah, let's, quickly, you're seeing the live standings here, and now you're seeing some of the other crafts, and you'll notice Team Blue Rising, the first one to come up with a really large number. That's because that penalty time has been added there as well. And look at Westbrook. Boy, I'll tell you what, that was a very abrupt angle through that final turn, but the way that worked, it was a nice pivot through that corner, wasn't it? That was pretty impressive here, and that is Sarah Price, and has turned to 122. Check this out right now. Timmy Hansen and Sarah Price are 1-2. The margin, 28 milliseconds.
That is close on water. That is especially close. That's unbelievable. And especially, again, we're talking about 2 pilots that don't have any experience racing boats before E1. They've really adapted well, and I think that is the key word, Greg, when it comes to E1, is adaptation.
Yeah, because a lot of the powerboat pilots have to unlearn stuff, as you were talking about, and you also have these pilots. You also have these pilots that have, you know, the ability, the road racing pilots who are comfortable with all the controls on the steering wheel. That's foreign as well, so lots to learn here. This is Aoki Racing, and of course Steve Aoki is probably the world's most famous DJ.
Yeah.
The man is a legend, and interestingly enough, his family background has some boat racers in it. And so that's why he decided, I want to get interested, I want to get involved, and he has been absolutely superb and is fielding a really talented team as well. And on board that boat right now is Saud Ahmed, who is an absolute standout jet ski racer as well. So very, very impressive here.
Yeah, and I think this is, we're coming towards the end of the season now, where you need to show what you can do, show what you've learned in one season and what you can bring into potentially next season and future races and everything like that. And this is a team that maybe haven't quite been there performance-wise. They've shown all the heart, all of the effort, but just haven't had the performance to match. So maybe with now slightly calmer waters and a lake running rather than an ocean running could give them the opportunity to show the rest of the grid what they're made of.
You know what? He just turned the fastest second sector of anybody in
go.
this qualifying session. So doing a nice job. Now coming into this really, really tricky turn. Boy, you see the load there. And they really have to pivot around that turn. And as a result, let's see what he does. Jumps to the top. Wow, that was also a solid third sector. But check this out. Right now, the top three are covered by 0.3 of a second. Again, on water. I think that kind of performance is virtually unheard of. What a lap by Saud.
Yeah, a massive difference there is just also that last sector. There's about a second in it at points now, where if you really nail that last corner, there's an opportunity for you to get a really, really good lap time. And, you know, looking at the difference between now the sector 1 and sector 2, that's also an area where you can improve on. Across the lap, it has to be about nailing each section the best way they can.
But look at this. This is Chris Ladaraga for, yes, I was just watching it. She had the fastest second sector by a chunk. She goes right to the top by 0.6 of a second for Team Rafa. And look at that grin. I'm sure they just told her the time. And this is impressive here. So again, what you're looking at, though, when you look at the live standings, it is working on the comparative times, those combined times at this stage, and that's what we're looking at. You can see why Team Blue Rising is well back here, but the reason that Rafa sits fourth right now is because that was a good time, a 1:21.3, but it was shy of the time turned by Sam Coleman in that first group of qualifying. That's why, even though they're quickest in this session, they're showed fourth.
And that's what makes E1 so unique. This whole, you know, really does take the qualities and the performance of both pilots together with their combined time to give them the ultimate time. Is exactly what we're seeing now in the live standings. Why it still says Brady top, Miami second, drop a third, is because when you combine the two as it stands currently, they are the best ones to look at. But this all could change, because, you know, we've still got a bit of running left in this session. We've got another session after to follow. So there's still a lot of laps still to come, and where those orders could shift around. But what I think we can say is that we are seeing more learning, especially in that last sector, in how people take that final corner.
I think so too, and I'm waiting for somebody to come through essentially that second to last corner, and then when they get to that last turn, open it up, because they're all doing that hard pivot. Why not open it up and see if you can keep that, because every time they dip that inside foil, it just grabs huge. I'm waiting to see them open it up just a little bit here right now. So, and as you take a look at the order here, we're watching Team Brazil. You can see right now they're over 4 seconds off of Team Brady's best time, so they have work to do. And one of the things that Sam Coleman told me earlier in the season, when you see that inside foil dip down so far into the water that you get spray up onto the front part of the canopy, that's too much, because that's just too much drag. You don't want the top of that foil to bury.
Yeah, you want as little spray as possible. You want to be sitting, flying above the waves, as opposed to having them all come and cover the boat and block your vision. So that's really what you're trying to do, which is use that trim, that controllable function on the steering wheel, to pivot and pitch the way the boat sits out of the water, to really activate the foils and, like I say, fly rather than sail or what the effective word would be. What would we do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Hansen on that last lap had a really good third sector, and instead of being 6/10 behind now, he's 3/10 behind. This is in this group of this session. Saud Ahmed now is down to third, Fayoki, and Sarah Price, who we have seen some extremely quick times from her, just suddenly seems to be struggling just a little bit. And let's see what she's going to do here. This is that ultra tricky last turn. Buries that inside foil and gets it done. It didn't have any of that instability, but really buried that foil. And one of the things I'm noting, there's a little orange marker there, and I think that kind of indicates where it starts to shallow up maybe, and you've got to complete your turn. That's why I think a more open arc through there.
I mean, at the moment, there's a lot of time to be found on this lap. So I think you're right, Greg. Maybe a wider line might do it. I mean, these people know best from in the cockpit, of course. But
yeah.
From our point of view, it seems like maybe, you know, that old phrase, slow is fast, slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
And interestingly, you look at the live standings there in the top three, that mirrors what the championship standings are right now. So you can see the reason why these teams that are up at the top seem to be up there all the time. They just have seemed to, that's where that problem is, that first little drop. And if you mistime that, that's when it seems to be an issue here. But a nice lap as Saud goes back to the top in this one. Man, he absolutely uncorked the second and third sector. Just turned to 1:19.5. He's almost a second clear as Sarah Price has gone to second in this session as well. So really good runs for those two. Lazaraga for Rafa and Hansen for Brazil. Right after Hansen had jumped up into second, ends up falling all the way back into fourth.
Yeah, the times are starting to get quicker now. We're about 2.5 seconds or so off the pace we saw from Team Brady. Is the reason why they're still top of those live standings, the combined live standings. But I think still, with the laps available left in this session, there's still chance for that time to come away. And the fact it's dropped 2-3 seconds in the last 2 laps. They're still learning constantly every lap.
And right now, Saud Ahmed, with that lap, has put Aoki up into third overall, in this combined session here. And Sarah Price, with her lap, has popped right up into the fourth spot right now. Yes, they are a little bit off, certainly, of the time that was set by Coleman here, and pretty impressive runs nonetheless here, and everybody checking it out. Team Rafa's crew really watching, and we've seen Chris Lazaraga have some absolutely stellar runs, and we know she certainly has some pace here, and of course we're going to have to see just what plays out, but she certainly has speed.
For sure, I mean, absolutely. With Team Rafa actually looking back to the last race in Monaco, when it came to practice and qualifying, they were unbeatable. They were so quick. They got that point for qualifying in Monaco, and they just seemed to have really good one-lap pace. And then something happens in the semi-finals and the final that costs them a better finishing result. But looking quick now.
Oh, she absolutely, it looked like it was going to be great. Got that little wiggle, but it was on exit. She got right back up on the foil here and jumps up into fourth. Chris Lazaraga, I love it when they make us look good. When we say they're fast and then they prove it. And the worry for everybody else in this championship is her co-driver, her co-pilot is a guy named Tom Schaap, who is about as quick as they come. So if Chris gets the job done, things are looking really stout here. And here's Timmy Hansen, who at one point was knocking on the door of being up in that top 4 and has dropped back a little bit to that 7th spot. And we've seen him win, put up some great runs in semifinals and the like. So, all right, here it is. It's that tricky corner. Here's what we're talking about, opening it up just a little bit right here. And again, just sort of driving straight toward that smart mark and then hooking it. That was not bad,
That's
though.
better. That's much better. We've seen that now both. We saw that with Christina beforehand, just taking that corner, carrying way more momentum through the corner, and that sets you up for the first sector. And if you look at Christina's time, they currently put them in the position that they are. The first sector and the third sector were quickest, and I think the reason the first sector was quickest maybe because of how you exit the third sector.
That's a really good point, because if you're slow out of that last turn, you're going to basically have that deficit all the way to the second turn. That's a great point here. And let's see now what Sarah Price can do. Right now, Westbrook sitting in the 5th spot. And in this session, she's about a half second back in this group, but you can see it's 2.48, almost 2.5 back in the overall. All right, that's negotiating turn 6. Looked pretty good there.
Last chance saloon. I'm not sure it's going to happen. It's pretty a little bit off the pace in that second sector. Quite hard into that corner.
Yeah.
We've been talking about a lot. Maybe not as smooth as what we've seen before. Yeah, and as a result, there's no improvement on the time.
Yeah, and that's a real shame as she comes through here. And as I'm looking at it, only Team Rafa with Chris Lazdaraga has another lap left. Oh, check that. Saud Ahmed does as well for Aoki, and he's on that lap right now. Let's see what he does. Personal best in that first sector. And the first sector basically goes, folks, from that start-finish line up to turn, the entry into turn 2. And
I mean, Aoki, you know, Saud Ahmed's been looking pretty good in this session, but we have to think about this combined standings and the live standings we see on the left, because he's still almost exactly 2 seconds off the pace of Team Brady and the lap that Sam Coleman put in. And can he find that time in this lap? I don't think he can. It was a good first sector, but it was a slower second sector. And I'm not sure he's even going to match the time that's already been set, the 1:19.540, let alone the Team Brady 1:17.5.
I do have to say that was one of the best final turns that we've seen, but now he starts doing the buffering here. But nonetheless, a nice lap. But we're going to check in right now with Sarah Price of Team Westbrook. Sarah, this is Greg in the TV booth. Third in this run. You guys are currently 5th overall. How did you feel about that lap?
Honestly, I feel like we had a good pace. So, yeah, that's not the best qualifying spot we want to be in, that's for sure.
That last corner, Sarah, looks like it is really tricky. You guys have any idea what's creating that issue there?
Waters are very rough right now, for sure. They, sorry, just talking here. Yeah, the waters are very rough, so definitely the conditions aren't ideal. I think earlier was definitely better, so the boats that go earlier might have an advantage for sure.
All right, Sarah, thanks very much. Great effort. Look forward to seeing how it all plays out.
And just as we spoke to Sarah there, you know, the Rafa Team Rafa put a pretty good effort in to try and knock Team Aoki off the top spot, but they were short by just almost 0.2 of a second.
Now, so out of this group up into 3rd overall for Team Aoki, that's a very impressive run here for Aoki Racing. So a really nice job there. 3 of the race birds from this particular group have fought their way up into the top 5 in the overall. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and 2 sessions to go. Of course, we've got the other half of the pilots still to go out there and try their best at putting in the quickest lap possible and securing not just winning qualifying, but also getting that crucial point in the championship that is tight, where one single point could be the difference between whether you win at the end or whether you come second or you know, elsewhere.
Yeah, you see Sarah out of the boat, the race bird now chatting with Lucas Ordonez, who will be taking over. And you alluded to it earlier. It's been remarkable what Westbrook Racing has done. You know, after the first race at Jeddah, they weren't even in existence, right? And every race since, they have gone from up into the points, into the points, into the points. Right now, they come in here a solid 3rd in the points on their own, and they've missed.
Yeah. I mean, incredibly,
full race.
Incredibly, they've done so well performance-wise, and also just thinking about not having any pre-existing powerboat experience coming into it. Yeah, remarkable stuff from Team Westbrook.
There is a look at the first ever floating pool on Lake Como.
Fact.
And let's take a look at the results here now after the first session of qualifying. Another one coming. You can see Team Brady on top, but not by that much of a margin, only 0.7 of a second. Then a rather big chunk back to Aoki Racing, Rafa, and Westbrook, who all came in this most recent group. And then it is Drogba, Brazil, Checo, and Team Blue Rising with that penalty. Obviously, it's going to show them a lot farther back in the order. But the battle at the front is the battle for the championship. It's on. Oh boy, look at that setting. I alluded to that floating pool that came into existence in 1966. It was the first one on Lake Como, and I'll tell you, Villa d'Este, just an absolutely remarkable place. You know, it's been 152 years in existence as a hotel, but it's been in existence for over 450 years. It was built in 1568 by a pretty legendary architect of the Renaissance era, Pellegrino Pellegrini, as a residence for the Cardinal of Como, and it has been there ever since, and is absolutely a stunning villa. And of course, down there, lots of activity down in the launch zone, and also down there is Alex Aljo, and we're going to check in with her now. Alex?
Yeah, I'm here with Timmy from Team Brazil. How was that for you? Conditions not easy, are they?
No, it was kind of a lot of boat traffic out there, and I was way more confident on the morning session with the flat water. The thing is, with boat racing, you've got to adapt to the water, right? And this is all new for me, like, you know, land racing driver, car racing driver. So there is always a lot to learn. And yeah, this was one of the tougher sessions probably. And unfortunately, it's qualifying as well, but the learning curve is steep. The team is great. We keep learning from every session, and yeah, for sure, wasn't what we hoped this time, but still Katie to go, and she was really fast before, so we hope we can get a couple places up.
Yeah, sitting 7th as things stand with a 1:21, leaders with 1:17. Is it disappointing for you? Did you expect to do better today?
Yeah, but I don't think you can compare the two sessions because the waves are very changeable. So there was the early laps of the previous session was the best, and then it looks like the water's gotten slower and slower. But still, you got to do the maximum you can when you're out there. I did make a couple mistakes that I shouldn't have done, but you know, all in all, I think we got the pace. And our strength has always been the racing and the racecraft. So I know I have good confidence in my team. We're going to make a good start tomorrow, and even if we have a tough day today, we're not out of the race for sure.
Good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take a look at this. That's about as perfect as you can have that boat set up, that racebird literally flying across the water here. But one of the things that's interesting to me is the one they're talking about, it's rough out there. Compared to what we've seen, it sure doesn't look it. But the other thing you had speculated to me, Saunders, about boat traffic and ferry traffic. And look at the spray right there coming up. And that boat traffic and ferry traffic, obviously, is affecting these racebirds.
Absolutely. You know, we are one session in, 2 groups down, the same to go again, with the other half of the paddock taking their seat in the cockpit. Let's see who can top qualifying coming up next.
The sun is peeking out from behind the clouds. It's starting to light up an already beautiful Lake Como. This is round 5 of the UIM E1 World Championship for the electronic power boats. The beautiful Villa d'Este in the background, our host for the weekend. Look at that trophy. That is the trophy that this session is all about here as we continue qualifying. We're about to get into the second half.
Absolutely, and what we've seen so far, actually, let's look at this corner in particular, turn 7, because this has been the most pivotal on the course so far when it comes to one lap pace and that qualifying lap, because it's definitely the tightest on the course. It's a near 90-degree turn, and we've seen very different ways of approaching it. This being one from Team Drogba and Open Duncan, taking it with all sorts of imbalance, kind of flying all over the place. This being an example of a slightly smoother, maybe slower entry, keeping that boat level above the water and carrying more speed out of the corner. And I do think, Greg, it's pivotal when it comes to the lap time. It's basically nailing that corner is the difference between whether you're at the top or whether you've lost a second or more.
Well, because you pointed it out, if you're slow out of this turn, you carry it all the way past the start-finish line through turn 1 up to where you start to slow for turn 2. That's a long run.
Absolutely, and you have to think that the first 2 groups we've had so far in session 1 is they've looked and they've learned, and now they're going to take into that knowledge that they've learned in the first 2 groups into these second 2 groups and get that combined lap time as high as possible.
Yeah, absolutely, and you have already seen, if you've been watching already today, that the first 9 pilots have gone out. There is Lisa Gassame-Battaglia, and unfortunately you can see a little angst and anguish in her eyes because of the penalty that she incurred with an incorrect exit. So it is going to be all up to this gentleman to try and do something about it. This is John Peters, big story in and of itself. But what's happening here now is the second pilots for each of these beautiful racebirds are going to be doing their runs. Again, 2 groups, 5 in the first, 4 in the second, and then you combine the times of both pilots, divide by 2, that gives you the average, and the fastest lap or the lowest time average, that will earn that incredibly important point for pole. And in this one, we are going to see Emma Kymäläinen, who has proven to be, I think, somewhat of a phenom, considering she had no boating experience. But Sam Coleman has said she has an amazing feel, and that is serving her incredibly well.
That's a hugely important factor when it comes to any boat racing, but also when you've got the foil to contend with, your feel is changing from being like that feeling of the boat on the water to then the boat being out of the water and flying, and understanding the difference between 2 and how to achieve the perfect balance makes a huge difference. We actually heard when we saw Rafa Nadal and Will Smith go out in their respective team boats, the feeling difference between riding above the water and then slamming back down when you're trying to take a corner.
Well, of course, these racebirds, like most motorsports vehicles these days, loaded with sensors. But in the end, it all comes down to the 2 most important sensors, and they're the ones that are labeled LC and RC, and that's left cheek, right cheek. And that's where you feel it, in the seat of your racing overalls. And that was one of the best lines we have seen through that corner. And this is going to be starting her qualifying run here. And what a lap she has put in. Actually, that just completed it, and right to the top at a 1:20.891. And you can see that there. And again, we're going to be showing you the combined standings once the other laps happen.
For sure. I mean, like you said there, that was a really good attack of that turn 7. It looked well. What we'll see, whether my theory, Greg, is correct, and the first sector of the next lap is rewarded by being pacey. I think they're still going to find pace as it starts for now, especially because Emma's now being in the racebird for the first time in a competitive session so far this in the Lake Como course. So there is, only a certain amount you can take from learning from your co-pilot, but
Exactly.
I think it might take a few laps to try and equal that time. But the fact within 1, we're at the 120s already, because it took 2 or 3 laps to get that low in the other groups.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the first time now we've seen John Peters, who normally serves as the team principal for this team, but due to obviously Caleb Kavanagh not being able to make it here, John, who is a very experienced boat racer, decided to serve as the reserve driver. And, he's only got 11 national championships and over 60 speed records. One of them set last year, blowing the speed record out of the water that had existed previously for electronic boats. So he's got some skills.
Potentially, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm pretty sure this is the case. that might be the only person racing today that has any previous electric boat experience.
That's a really good point there. I think you're absolutely right in that. And now for Team Checo out in this one, this is going to be Denny Close, who is a GP2 race winner and still does active testing for Formula One. Very talented driver on road courses and has shown an ability here in these race birds as well. And let's see, nice lap puts him up into second in this particular group here. Still though, looking for a little bit more as we're going to see where they end up for Team Checo in the overall right now. And not too shabby, jumped up with the combined times right now, right up into second. Still a long ways off of Team Brady, but still, that's solid.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much a chance that it could move around. You know, those green circles showing you who's actually currently out at the moment on the water. Team Brady still leading the combined standings at Sam Coleman's time, and now Emma Kamalainen's time. Currently, as it stands, I still think there's a bit more to get, because at the moment you've got Emma as a 128, and you've got Sam Coleman's 117 equaling a 119. So that kind of gives you an idea of how it works with the two times to create the combined standings.
Yeah, and Anna just topped Emma Kamalainen in this particular group by just a little over a tenth of a second, and you can see that was good enough now to move Team Miami up into second. And look at those combined average times. It was a long distance between them previously, and they have come good. Only basically 0.3 off a second off of Brady in the combined times. And now watching Team Drogba, and this is going to be a good one. Yusuf Al Abdul Razak. They say when he's on form, his nickname is the Razak Attack, and he gets that look. When he's got that look, that means he's after it here. And man, can he get it done? Everyone's
got their concentration face.
They do.
And we've just seen the Razak Attack's concentration face. So yeah, one to watch for future. But yeah, there's a lot at stake. You know, we were looking at the real business end of the season now.
Fastest first sector right from the off. And again, first sector is from the start line up to turn 3. And then the second break is essentially over from turn 3. It's a long run over to turn 4 right in here. And so we're going to see what kind of time he puts up here. And another fastest sector. So he could be on to something here. It's just all going to come down, Saunders, to that final corner in turn 7, and he's about to enter it. Let's watch him.
Let's watch how smooth this is. Turn 7, it is the pivotal turn on the circuit, near 90 degrees. How can it be taken? Coming round to it now. That's quite smooth.
Yeah.
That's quite a little bit of speed, you know, dropping off towards, you know, what you want. Potentially could have taken a bit more around there. I mean, I say it here from the comms booth, but
yeah,
still.
Look at that. He jumps to third, 0.8 off of Brady. And in this particular group, that was quicker by 1.2 seconds quicker than anybody in this group. And that combined time has him already up into third. And you know what I noticed? I thought that run through turn 7, he was open. He was a little wider out, coming from 6, and opened it up a little bit.
As you predicted.
Well, you know, we're just sitting, we're not in the seats, but we're watching. I love these views of Emma. You see her, she's gritting her teeth as she's flicking the paddles.
This is a really good perspective there. You saw the bigger visor that Emma had on, basically blocking out more sun because the sun has come out, and that might be potentially affecting what they can see in terms of the markers and picking their lines. Because also that wake in front of you, that white, just reflects more light.
Yeah, and Emma had a staggering third sector and a really good first and second. In this session, she just turned a 1:18.4, and look at the time now for Brady, a 17.99 combined, and with that lap, they went a second and a half quicker than anybody combined.
You know,
wow.
A combined time of less than 1:18. That is a huge margin. Really, really good work from both of them. And it just makes me say nothing to, you know, they're both exceptionally good pilots, but there is clearly something in the setup in relation to this course and these conditions.
Exactly. And you know, in terms of the setup, there's, you know, it isn't like a car where you could adjust suspension and all camber angles and all that. Here you can only do a little sanding on the foil basically, but it's how are you driving it? How is the trim set? What is the lift? All of those little things. And they seem to have really hit on a combination that works.
And let's not forget, there is one championship point up for grabs for whoever finishes top of these combined standings in qualifying. And that could go a huge way to deciding, who wins this championship. It could come down to a point. That's the thing with the points available. 1 point could go a long way.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about it. Brady came in here 13 points up. There's 22 points available per event. We have 2 events left. That's 44 points. So 13 points sounds like a lot until you put those numbers together here. And let's see on this lap, working through Anna Glennon. How does that look? That was pretty good.
Yeah, it almost feels too good. Maybe potentially more of a build lap.
I think you're right. I think she is starting her second lap. Exactly. Good eye.
No, thank you. But what have you learned? What have we learned? What has Anna learned from seeing everyone so far in this session? What communication's been fed back from the rest of the team about how to nail that turn 7? Because we could see a good lap. Because Anna has looked quick in the past.
She has. And if you were with us earlier, we showed you, some of the race birds that had some big moments in turn 7, and she was the first one in practice. And so that's going to be something that they, I'm sure, have worked on. And looking solid line through there as this Team Miami race bird sitting second in the points right now. It's the one that is the closest to Team Brady and the best opportunity here to unseat them. They've done it once before this season where they came in and Brady had won 2 in a row and then had a problem and ended up not making the final. Team Miami went on to open it up. All right, that is through turn 6, so she is now heading toward that really tricky corner. You see the Villa d'Este in the background, and here she comes. It starts with this setup here. Let's see what happens through that turn. Not bad. That looked really good.
Everybody's looking smoother through there now. The lessons have been learned, I think, with turn 7. Not quite enough to put too much pressure on their main championship rivals with Team Brady above them, but still sitting firm in that second place in the combined standings.
Well, she made up. It was 1.5, so she found about 4/10. So you will take any improvement here, and that was, after all, only her second lap. And to me, it looked like she went into what is essentially what we call turn 3 a little tight again. And I know, they're loath to make these long runs because it's distance, right, versus time.
Yes.
You save more time by going a shorter route, or does the speed you're allowed to run up, or the longer route, negate all that? And I think if they opened that up a little bit more into 3, look at this. That's a little bit in a moment, and you can see immediately a smart move there to just sort of get out of the way. Let's see here.
Potentially 2 or 3 boats going for this lap at the same time now. So the last thing you want to do is get in each other's way while you're all trying to do the best lap you can that you have so far in the session. But even now, that distance isn't too much to cause Team Drogba a bit of problems with the wake behind.
Yeah, a little disruption back there, and that's going to be Yusuf Al Abdul Razak who's going to be feeling that as John Peters is going. This is his second lap. So I think that was probably pretty smart that he ran that first lap and then just went back to the milling area, and I'm sure was chatting with his engineer that's serving in his position essentially for the weekend.
That last shot was great to show you how much activity there is in the rest of the lake, how much wake is being created by other boats. So if you that gets timed badly and there's a bigger boat coming past when you're going through that section of the course, that again could impact your time. Now coming round to these essentially the long lap now they're doing a trial of, and they have to do once to see Drogba. Sorry, that's them sitting out in the long lap, keeping out of the way of Team Blue Rising and Drogba. It's very kind of them. Now let's see how they deal with this crucial turn 7, because this is where all the time is gained or lost.
Now for Peters, the second sector was his personal best. That wasn't bad at all.
Wider as well, like you say.
Yep. Nice open arc and comes through. And that was his best lap of this particular group here. Obviously, they're still sitting in that 5th spot right now. And again, remember, you see that huge number in terms of time, that 1:53. That's because they had a penalty in the first race, the first qualifying session. And of course, Aoki, Rafa, Westbrook, and Brazil, you see there, their pilots are yet to come out in this second session. Their times will be factored in as well. But pretty impressive what Miami's been able to do, considering the pace we've seen from Brady, to knock that down just a little bit. And everybody out there still has one more lap to go, so this isn't done yet.
As it stands, Emma Kimalainen in this session has been fastest in all 3 sectors. You know, it's Brady have got unbelievable pace today. It's actually quite almost shadowing over the performance of some of the other teams that have really stepped up.
Let's see now as Glennon is on this lap here, and first sector not great compared to some of the others, so we're going to have to keep an eye out here. And there you see it, you were talking about it. There's also a ferry that runs, and we're not sure whether that has been asked to stop operations here, but nonetheless it's still, oh, look at the sun bouncing off of Lake Como, about as pretty as it gets. And here's the other thing, that when they just are going through turn 5, that yellow cone in the distance, that smart mark, that's turn 1. This is really close, so you get, you know, race birds that are on a half a lap off sequence. Even that can disrupt the water a bit. This is it for Team Miami here. And let's see what Anna Glennon can do. This will be her 3rd and final lap.
Final corner, here we go. It's not as quick as some of the others, I don't think, which is a shame because that was looking like an improved lap up to that point. But yeah, still sits the same, just over a second and a half.
Yep, just could not improve on her previous best. I think you're right. Anytime you see that inside foil get buried in the water, generally that's not going to be a particularly quick lap.
No.
We've noticed that.
But you know, equally looking at the combined standings, it doesn't change anything. You know, the fact that it's a crazy amount of work that would have to be done to bridge the gap on Team Brady, who just seem to be operating on a completely different level so far today. But they're still currently securing that 2nd spot in the combined standings, which is the best of the rest.
Best of the rest, and you know what you hate to do when you're sitting in 2nd place is give that critical point to the people you're chasing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of looking like that's how that can play out here right now. You know, so now they're hoping that a Rafa or a Westbrook can just blow something out of the water here and take that point away from Brady at this point. But Anna Glennon for Team Miami is completing her run. We're going to see if we can talk to her. Anna, this is Greg in the TV booth. You had a big moment in practice over there in that last turn. It looked like you figured it out in this qualifying run.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that was a fun little moment in practice, but you know, it didn't stress me out too much, and we rode it out. So I think after that, I was a lot more conscious of my speed in that corner, and we made it work.
And Anna, I really need to ask you, it doesn't look like the water is that rough, but these race birds are moving around a huge amount. What do you think is causing that?
It's deceiving out there. You know, when you're standing on the shoreline, it looks pretty flat, but there's quite a few rollers out there that are pretty sneaky, so sometimes they may catch you off guard. And as a spectator, you may not see them, but when you're driving the race bird, they may sneak up on you.
Clearly so. Thank you so much, Anna. Good luck for the rest of the event.
There we go. So now looking at Team Drogba and Youssef Al Abdulrazak, currently just over, barely over a second behind the fastest lap so far in this group session. But there is still chance to improve, although I don't think it's going to happen despite the effort of trying.
Yeah, he's certainly going to put the effort in here, but so far the first and second sectors, he's just not on that pace. And here comes that critical 7th corner. Oh, just buried that foil. Popped it right back up on trim pretty quickly up onto the foil after it, but still problematic. Wow, he made it happen in that final sector. That's a 1:18.9 that he just turned. And he did find some speed. I mean, it wasn't enough. They're still 1.7 off, but remember, it was a tick over 2 seconds that they were behind Brady there. So he found something.
So looking at how he approached that last turn there, didn't look necessarily that stable, but you know the timings speak for themselves.
Yeah,
it's the second quickest of that sector so far in this group. So maybe there's a balance between the two about that kind of smoothest, slow, smoothest, fast, versus just making sure you carry as much speed as you can through and ride that kind of balance. It's a difficult corner.
Right. And here comes Danny Close, as he is starting his final lap here, or completing it, I'm sorry. And Danny Close, that was a 1:23.1. He had a 1:22.3 earlier, so not quite able to improve it. Now, John Peters for Team Blue Rising and Emma Kimmelainen for Team Brady still have one more run to go. And it took a second for the timing to catch up, where Yusuf Abdul-Razak actually made his speed. He had the fastest sectors of Sector 1 and Sector 2 and a good third sector, but that's where he made up all of that time. And that was foretelling right there. And it's interesting seeing the different approaches in that final turn. You know that tight, and that one, that tight drop it, pivot, come out. But the interesting thing to me is that it's the setup for dropping that inside foil when you get into that turn. And if it loads to the outside as you drop, it does that roll. That's when it seems to just release with that huge rebound and catch everybody out. So I think everybody is still exploring turn 7.
Yeah, there's still maybe the perfect one yet to find, but the crucial thing is that the Razak attack minimized the gap on Kimmelainen and above from a second, just over a second, to just under half a second. So taking a whole half second off their pace. But now it's John Peters. It is the guy that's usually off the water, calling the shots as team principal, filling in for Phelim Kabner. What can they do, Team Blue Rising, in their last chance to secure a good lap in qualifying?
And you see Brady now, keep in mind, there is a qualifying time. You see it ticking away at the bottom. If you go through the start line before that time elapses, the lap you're on is good. Emma made it by 7 seconds right there. That's why she had to go. And we'll see if she deals with any of this wake. But the interesting thing, I saw both of them start their runs with that big, long arc we were talking about through 7. And I think, and I realize on that, as you complete the lap, you don't want to use that much real estate because of the distance, but maybe something in the middle.
Could be on something there. I mean, effectively, if you think about, the penalty that was applied to Team Blue Rising as well, there isn't really a competition going on here. I think Team Brady are locked in now with that finishing position in qualifying, the combined standings, but at the same time, there's a lot of learning that still can come when it comes to racing lines and when it comes to understanding how to navigate this course.
Well, and obviously for Peters with that that penalty time, this has become a test session, this second run, and that's okay. Now the question is, even though Brady's got it, it's just by a tick over a second, which we've seen in this series, is not that much. And just wondering here, how much maybe is Emma being affected by the wash from Peters' Team Blue Rising race bird? You can see there's some chop that is existing from him going through. Let's see what she does as she comes through and completes that final lap. And it's a bit off of what she had previously done here. And that's it. And did you see what John Peters did when he was finishing? That is the savvy racer. The way he drove turn 7, he went straight to that far right finish line smart mark. Instead of turning, he just drove straight at it. And what that did, it shortened that run just a little bit.
Yeah.
Man, that's where you see the savviness of the experienced racer come to play.
It will be interesting to look back at all of the quickest laps and see whether they were set on the last lap.
Yeah,
doing the same thing.
Absolutely. And look at Anna waiting here, and she's getting in the water, and the reason is it is sizzling here in Lake Como. It is darn near 90 degrees right now, and Anna just looking to chill just a little bit. So, but there is the launch zone. You can see the race birds coming in. John Peters there for Team Blue Rising, and behind is Emma Kimmelainen for Team Brady, and we're going to see if we can chat with her. Emma, this is Greg in the TV booth. Team Brady, fastest in practice, and you earn an amazing time here in qualifying, both you and Sam. What's your secret?
Sorry, Greg, I lost you there. Can you repeat?
You have been so fast in both practice and now qualifying. Care to share your secret?
I'm going to talk at the same time. I'm going to see if I'm a woman. I can do plenty of things at the same time. Just kidding. Yeah, we've been having a good speed, but we'll see what happens. The races are tomorrow. We'll have to debrief after this, and we'll trust our process.
Well, it's been extremely effective so far. Good luck. You're closing in on that qualifying point.
Can't argue with that pace.
Thank you so much.
Emma wouldn't give you the secret, but perhaps Sam will, because he's down with Alex now.
Sam, 2 brilliant times from you, from Emma today. So far, so very good for Team Brady in Lake Como.
Yeah, we're fighting the conditions and jostling for position out there to get a clean lap. So I think not as fast as we were in practice this morning, but we had preferential water then. It was harder to get clear water now with the ferry traffic and other boats, but so far it's looking pretty solid. There's a fast group to go out yet though, so we know there's more to come from the other guys.
This corner here is a tricky one, isn't it? Can you talk me through that and then the best way to approach it? Turn 7.
Yeah, there's a couple of different tactics it seems by guys, either straight lining in and turning super hard or trying to sweep, and it really is meters versus speed. So you don't want to drive too far and you don't want to turn in too tight, and it's a really tricky balance and it's condition dependent. You've just got to adapt to when you come around the corner and see what's in front of you and realize it's different this lap and try and adapt. It is really hard and it's a key to speed in this course, and you can see that we're all struggling on it, but I think we've done a solid job so far.
I think you have too, Sam. Thank you. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you very much.
Well, interesting what he was talking about there, about that it's distance versus speed and what the benefit is. And, and we have that shot with no race birds out there, and that now looks really calm. So obviously it's other lake traffic, but I think it's also traffic from the race birds that are out doing their laps, bouncing off the shore and coming back. The challenges continue here.
I'll be back now, just away.
So after Group 1 of session 2, here's how that ended up. John Peters, after that, of course, penalty time at the back of this group. Danny Close, though, for Team Jekko in 4th, Anna Glennon for Team Miami in 3rd, Yusuf Abdul Razak for Team Drogba in 2nd, and Emma Kimmelainen backing up Sam Coleman's time for Team Brady.
They've certainly set a benchmark, haven't they? We have to say though, we saw really, really good qualifying performance from the likes of Team Rafa in Monaco. Didn't necessarily end up with a good performance in the races. So yeah, the gauntlet has been thrown. Let's see how all the other teams react in these last 2 sessions.
Well, that's the only thing they can do right now is react, and we will have that final group of session 2 and wrapping up qualifying to determine who gets that crucial point in just a bit. The magical Villa d'Este and the stunning Lake Como welcome you back, as do we, for this final group of our qualifying session. The final 4 race birds with the second pilots on board to set the best times they can to try and improve in qualifying. Again, it is the combined times of each of the pilots. But speaking of pilots, how about the celebrity owners that have been here? Look at the faces. Marcello Claret, Didier Drogba, legends. Tom Brady, of course, 7-time Super Bowl champion. Absolutely remarkable. The drivers and their owners that are here. Didier fully into it. Mark Anthony and Steve Aoki right there having a big chat. The musician and the DJ. There's Marcello Claret and his daughter, who are actually team owners. And Mark Anthony, of that whole group and all the athletes that are in there, it's the singer as we watch Team Brady celebrating an absolutely amazing season. It's been the singer, Mark Anthony, who seems the absolute most ebullient and joyous and most competitive.
I mean, what's not to like? You know, you come and you watch some amazing action on water, these incredible machines, these electric foils flying above the water, you know, close racing. What's not to like?
Absolutely, absolutely. And his go-to phrase every time he's at an event here is, "Let's go." Yeah. And he just absolutely loves it here. So we are getting ready for the final 4 race birds to head out. And in this one, for Team Rafa, who's actually placed decently at this point, they need a little bit of speed, a birthday boy.
Yes, Tom Chap. Big one today, 25. I remember that not too long ago, thankfully. Well, but
thanks
yes.
for looking at me and laughing. I appreciate it. And I'll tell you, he is one fast chap. I've been waiting to say that all year. I just had to get it out. He is amazingly quick. And for Steve Aoki Racing, Michele Lobadan, who is very fast. We've seen her put up some really impressive runs in the Team Brazil boat. That is Marcello Claret's group. That is Katie Munnings. And for Westbrook, it is Lucas Ordonez. And he is the first one to start a lap here. Let's see how it goes.
A massively high benchmark has been set by Team Brady and to be fair, and Team Miami as well, you know, only being a little bit behind, and Team Drogba as well. They're really the 3 best times in the combined standings to me. You know, there's just over a second behind first and second, and just over a second and a half after that. So let's see what Lucas Ordonez can do for Team Westbrook.
And you see, I want to ask you there, for turn 2, he could have opened that arc up just a little bit because you saw that pivot and you can see the boat drop and just lose a little bit of speed. I'm just wondering, you know, I'd like to get your input on that. And this is where I would think that the road racers, if you will, drive those patterns on the tracks, would open things up and drive a little bit more of a racing line, but they're still pivoting around those smart marks.
It's the beauty of the combined disciplines.
Isn't it?
Just like you say, on one side you've got the people used to driving on racetracks, knowing what hitting those lines and hitting those marks mean, but then you've got the people that know how to deal with all these foreign, unlike natural forces pushing against your direction of movement. So they can learn from each other and try and get the best of both worlds to create the, you know, in this case, the fastest lap time or the race wins come tomorrow.
Boy, I'll tell you, there you see the combined standings, and so those bottom 4, they'll start popping the numbers up, and again, that sort of real drop and pivot around that final turn. Let's see what he does and see what he does for time. A 1:21.7 in this run, which combined moves him all the way up into the 4th spot. A bit off, obviously, of that top time, but that's a good start. He'll get 2 more laps.
Yeah, I mean, to give you an idea of what needs to be done in order to start putting the pressure on those currently quicker in the combined standings, you're looking at basically as close to a 118 or a 119 as possible. So although, you know, a 121 is good for this session so far, you need to be getting it under a 120 at least to match with the timing of your co-pilot already set to get that average lap time in the position you want it to be.
Now, Michele Lobadan here has turned the fastest first sector thus far. And again, yeah, there's only been 2 race birds out, but she's a bit underneath what Lucas Ordonez was able to do. And look at that time as she jumps up into a 1:22.7 or 1:22.07 in this session, moves her right up into 4th. So a superb effort there for Michele. And you know, we've seen her have these types of performances here.
Yeah, it just goes to show you the importance of trying, the combined lap time, trying to both equal performance and not having one have to pick up the slack from the other. Because obviously when you have a format like this where it is all about combined standings and a combined average lap time, that's exactly what you need.
Yep, here comes Team Rafa, and they are setting out here. And again, this is Tom Schaap, the Frenchman, who is incredibly experienced in powerboat racing and trying to float as much speed as he can around that tricky turn 1. It's just a little flick to the right. And now up into turn 2. You saw him, it didn't dip quite as much as Lucas did it.
Yeah, decent amount of pace carried through there. Now this is really just about riding this racing line, trying to keep as much power on, keeping it balanced in the perfect point, with the foil sitting above the water to maintain that consistent speed without being moved around too much from the waves either side or the water either side hitting you. And then that just comes around now to that final corner, which currently Team Brazil, Katie Munnings is having a go at now. But let's see what happens with Tom Schaap for Team Rafa in this final sector, because so far things are looking pretty good. Sorry, sector 2 I should say.
Yeah, he's got the fastest time in both sectors, and by a chunk in both of them. So if he can nail these last 2 corners into turn 6 right now, coming through, and let's see his line. Now he tightens it up just a little bit there. And again, they don't want to run too long a distance. There's the turn in. How quick does he get back up on the foil? Not too bad. Let's see what he does. He's about to come through the line. What kind of time does he put up? And it is a good one. A 1:19.0, and that jumps them right up into third in the combined times. That was a lap.
That's a really competitive lap. You know, we're talking more than 2.5 seconds quicker than anyone so far in this group who's running currently at the moment, and where it looks on the combined standings front is third.
And here now for Team Brazil is Katie Munnings. And rough right there. And you can see the jolt when we have that onboard camera looking back at the driver. When that thing comes off of the foil, that suddenly, it is a violent plunge, isn't it?
Let's see how Katie tackles this turn 7. Already a bit of imbalance there coming into that. So there was a lot less speed to take through to that corner, so it didn't look as unstable as maybe it could have. But I don't think this is going to be a great time. But still plenty of chance to improve on that, another 2 opportunities.
Yep, that was only the first lap at a 1:22.9. And so obviously 2 more opportunities, sitting in that 7th overall spot right now. And as you pointed out earlier, folks, if you look at that graphic, the green dots indicate the race birds that are currently out on course right now. All of them have completed 1 lap of 3 allowed. We have 9 minutes left in this session for everybody to get those second laps in.
And now it looks like Team Aoki is setting out, and Michelle Alabadan is setting out to try and do another qualifying lap, creating loads of space in front, you know, allowing Team Brazil and Katie Munnings to go through and create a lot of open space for now, try and put a fast lap in. So let's see what she can do.
And again, this first sector, when we're talking about the sectors, that's going to be a real pace eater right there. Those huge drops and all of that hull hitting the water like that. A lot of friction, a lot of drag as a result. And let's see that first one, quite a ways off.
You know in the cockpit, if you've got that feeling, if you suddenly get thrown around in your seat, you just know that is just time being lost. And it's really hard to make it up, especially when the gaps are so tight. When there is only, you know, sometimes, as we have seen, you know, looking at the combined standings right now, you know, less than 1.5 seconds between the top 3, only barely more than that for the top 4.
And this one, she really seems to be fighting this, just really struggling to keep it up on the foils. There, it's planed out a little bit there. She comes through turn 5, and now we're going to see what happens. And turn 6 is really your setup, isn't it, for turn 7? It's how you exit 6 that determines the line you're going to take through turn 7. And she's opening that up a little bit more than some of the others. You can see that's a little wider entry here.
You know, Sam Coleman made a really good point in the interview in the last session, which was like, it changes lap per lap based on the conditions around you. How much other wake have you got to deal with passing boat traffic? You know, has there been a boat just before you that's gone through the same corner and created some sort of less flat water? So you might, one lap, want to take it hard and slow down more than you would, you know, on the alternative option of taking more speed through the corner based on the conditions. So that's again, that level of adaptation, and that really is the key word in E1.
And she's going for her third lap right away. And I think I see some value in this because there's none of the other race birds are out. The water looks to be decent, and she just learned a lot on that one lap. And that last sector for Michelle was the second quickest of the session, which tells me that she really nailed that turn 6 and 7.
As it looks right now, looking at Team Brazil, they're quite comfortably. We're sitting nicely in the foil there, catching a bit of weight there to kind of create that instability again, just knocking the nose up and down. But other than that, it looks pretty evenly. You know, we're not seeing a lot of vertical movement in the front nose cone of the race bird there, which shows that the trim is probably at a good spot and it's not moving that much. So they've found a sweet spot.
And that's not a bad trim number. We saw Brady though was in like the, what was it, 6.6, 0.7?
Big jumps, yeah, big jumps in trim, especially the likes of Team Drogba as well, big jumps there. But this is pretty consistent. It's only moving sort of 0.23 at a time. So they've found, like I said, that sweet spot. And let's just see what that does in terms of lap time.
So Katie hustling it around right here. I'm looking to see what Michelle's second lap, unless she decided to just bail on it, and I think she may have, and gone back into the milling area, which you can do. You know, once you come out of turn number 3, you can either continue on or you can just head straight line, if you will, miss turn 5 and just go, miss turn 5 and just go straight to the milling area. Boy, I'll tell you, that is a tricky corner. Yeah, it was a 122.1. So it's really, really close right now between Lucas Ordonez, who here is starting his second lap, Michelle Lobadan and Katie Munnings, Westbrook Aoki in Brazil. They are separated, that trio, by half a second. The problem is they're 2.7 behind right now, behind Tom Schaap. So for Lucas, this is his second lap. Let's see what he can do. Boy, he just put up a great second sector time. Fastest by almost a second. This could be a good one.
Okay, now let's look to see what they do coming around to that final corner. Again with the trim, not too much movement. So potentially finding a sweet spot in the current water conditions. That looks pretty smooth.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look necessarily that fast. So has it been the right time to use that sort of turn strategy?
Yes, it has. That's a 118.9, Saunders. You spotted it. It maybe didn't look that fast, but maybe smooth was what really paid off there.
For sure. It's just using that trim to set yourself in the point where you feel most comfortable above the water, where you can minimize the friction of the race bird on the water, sit on the foils and just carry as much speed into each corner and out as possible.
And that has propelled Westbrook now up into the 4th overall spot as you look at the combined standings. And wow,
that looks effortless, doesn't it? You know, it's completely smooth above the water. That is trim in the perfect position and conditions suiting it as well.
And what is impressing me about him is when he does pivot through these turns, it drops bang right back up on the foils.
Yeah, this could be a good lap, and you would expect it from Tom Schaap because in previous races, weekends, he has looked very quick in both practice and qualifying.
Holy cow, that first sector was at 20.9.
Wow.
Nobody's been close to that in this group. So here we go.
This could be the difference to split second and third in the combined standings.
I think you're right.
Carry on this pace throughout the lap. Again, Greg, that final corner, that turn 7 is going to be where it comes down to.
Yeah, everybody's looking at that and gnawing at their nails here. Personal best, not the outright best in this session in the second sector, but a personal best that's pretty darn good. So here we go. What do you do in this last sector? And particularly, here we come.
It's not bad.
Not bad.
This might creep into the 118s.
A little bit of oscillation there, but what'd he do?
It's a 117.
Oh my goodness, that's
faster than Brady.
And look how close in the combined. He's got one more lap. If he finds 4/10,
that's almost a second quicker than what Sam Coleman did with Team Brady. You know, on the combined standings, it's showing as, you know, just under 4/10 quicker, but in terms of single lap pace, that is a phenomenal lap.
Oh, that's as stunning as Lake Como.
Only on your birthday.
Yeah, there you go. He's determined to give himself a point for a gift. That was remarkable. Here's Katie Munnings now, and she is working her third and final lap. We only have 2 minutes, just a tick over 2 minutes left in this session. And up in front of her that is Shop, and I think he is just, I don't know that he's going to continue. I don't know that he's got a lot of time to go sit in the milling area, though. He may just decide to get after it here as well.
I mean, unless there's been a drastic change in conditions, I think it's going to be hard to hit a 1:17.03.
Yes.
Like, that's an incredibly good time. But if the conditions have changed significantly and there is a better chance of carrying more speed and being more comfortable on the foil, we could start seeing, you know, these final laps times really coming down.
You know, I'm starting to believe here as we continue to watch Katie that it may not be actually the turn 7. It's right there. That is where these race birds consistently seem to dip and bounce and move, and I wonder if that's where we're getting that reverb, if you will, that's coming off of the shoreline, because that's where it, and if it destabilizes there, then they're struggling into 7.
I think it's a mixture of that, but also at the point when you start using the trim to slow down, in the build-up into turn 7.
Okay.
I think it's a combination of both.
So let's see, Katie Munnings, that was her best lap, a 1:21.992, third in this session, 7th overall though. And now watching for Steve Aoki Racing.
Oh, a little bit of almost traffic there. That could really impact Aoki's qualifying lap there, just by having a bit more weight to contend with. Thankfully not too much, but it definitely will make a difference. And also just the mental difference of having a boat in front of you, you know.
Yeah, it's one thing if it's a race and you're in chase mode. It's another thing when you just want free-wheeling course, and there's another craft there. And that is Shop, who has started his lap. So everybody is out as, we're now down to 4 seconds left. So all 2 of the remaining boats now, race birds, Shop and Ordonez, are out on their final laps. And Shop right now, boy, I'll tell you, he'd need to dip into the 1:16.6s to take this away from Team Brady here. That would be stunning if he does it.
Yeah, this is a good little battle here. The 2 quickest in this session for sure. But also, you know, if Lucas can put in a good lap, it could bridge the gap, and they could end up with 3rd combined. It could in 3rd in the combined standings.
The interesting thing, Lucas, not even personal best in the first 2 sectors, and for Shop, not a personal best in the first sector. So if he's going to find that kind of time that he needs, he is going to have to dig immensely deep. Let's see what Lucas does. For Westbrook,
not enough.
Not quite enough. Just a couple of tenths off of his absolute best. Let's see what Shop can do for Rafa. You know, and the GOAT in tennis is watching.
Yeah, and knows what it's like to feel
He's been out
in the seat of the cockpit. It's personal best in sector 2, but still looking slower than the current time set. Another fastest sector 3, again, took even more time out. But yeah, still, I mean, the benchmark was high, let's be honest.
Oh, it was extraordinarily high, and he had really good 1st and 3rd sectors, but the middle sector is where he lost it here. Still in all, to end up after the way Brady, Team Brady has been performing, and considering that Drogba in the practice sessions was down the order just a little bit, to put that time in, pretty remarkable. Especially that lone lap by Tom Shap, that was stunningly quick, a 1:17.0, but extraordinary what he was able to do here. We're going to see if we can check in with Tom as he brings that beautiful Raceberg back to the launch zone. Tom, this is Greg in the TV booth. That was an extraordinary lap, a 1:17.0. You were trying hard to give yourself a birthday point for a present, weren't you?
To be honest, this day was a bit special for me in all of the team. Of course, it's my birthday, and also Rafa's there, so yeah, I'm super happy, and I'm super proud of the team, of what I am, because they worked super hard to this weekend. We managed super well, but now qualification is done. We took P2. We have to be super happy of that because it's super good result. And yeah, let's focus in for the race. But yeah, vamos!
Vamos indeed. That was an extraordinary lap, a great qualifying. Good luck tomorrow.
So qualifying all wrapped up, combined standings showing Brady taking that crucial point in what is a big championship winning opportunity here in Lake Como. But tomorrow is where it all counts, because that's where all the points are up for grabs. We've got the semi-finals first, then the finals and the place race, everything like that following tomorrow. It's a very exciting day ahead of us, Greg.
Oh, incredibly so. And I mean, as you said, they came in here, Brady, with a 13-point lead. Now it's 14. And it's going to be just that intense. But I'll tell you, Team Rafa here in particular has shown that they might have an answer for that and be able to give them a real run for their money. Team Miami not that far out of it either. Westbrook Racing showing the form as well. I mean, really right now, the top 5 all have an opportunity to really do something special in the semifinals, which will start the day off tomorrow. And then, of course, that leads us straight into the finals and a runoff, a race-off, and a place race. So much coming tomorrow here on Lake Como in this absolutely incredible session. A huge thank you once again to Villa d'Este for hosting round 5 of the championship.